Whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina ki uta. Kia mā taratara ki tai. Kia hi ake ana te atakura. He tio, he huka, he hau hu. Ti hei mauri ora. Ko te mihi tuatahi ki te atua nana iha inga mea katoa. Ko te mihi tuarua ki mate. Haere, haere, haere. Kia koutou te hunga ora, ngā manuhiri kua taimai tina koutou, tina tātou katoa. Ko kaki puka te maunga, ko waipate awa no te kuiti ahau, ko te atatu ahau, e noho ana, kei sport waitakere ahau, e mahi ana. Ko Caitlin McCall, toko ingoa, nō reira, tina koutou katoa. Kia ora, everyone, and welcome. I see you waving, Jade. My name is Caitlin. I'm in the Healthy Families Waitakere team based at Sport Waitakere, Kina Waitakere in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland. I'm your host for today, and I also have my colleague Grace Voinovich online helping out. Kia ora, Grace. I really want to acknowledge our speakers for today, and also particularly Foundation North for supporting us to bring this webinar series to you. I also want to acknowledge all of you for listening in today, but also those who have joined us and taken the time to listen to all of the kōrero that we've had on making systemic change around the motu since we first started these webinars in July. So thank you. Today, our speakers are talking about Te Moana-nui-ā-Toi, Tīkapa Moana, the Hauraki Gulf. These waters have provided kai, connection and storytelling for people for hundreds of years. And Māori are inherently connected to the natural environment through whakapapa. So when the mauri of Hauraki Gulf is diminished, so too is the health of our local people, whānau, families and communities. Kim Collins, kia ora Kim, is a project manager for G.I.F.T, the Gulf Innovation Fund Together, a fund initiated by Foundation North in 2016 to restore the mauri of Tīkapa Moana, Te Moana-nui-ā-Toi, the Hauraki Gulf. It also recognises that mātauranga Māori and genuine engagement with mana whenua is fundamental to change our current systems. Kim is presenting today and is joined by Rosie Nathan. Kia ora, Rosie. Rosie is an advisor at Foundation North for G.I.F.T. Together, they will share how they have been thinking about and supporting systems change through G.I.F.T. Kim and Rosie will be followed by Sue Neureuter, trustee of the Noises Trust. Sue's family are caretakers of the Noises group of islands there within the Hauraki Gulf, and she spent her life on and in the ocean. Her and her family are strong advocates for the marine protection and active restoration within the Hauraki Gulf. Sue is joined by Katina Conomos, independent contractor of the Noises project team, and she has a diverse range of experience and connections in government and not-for-profit sectors. For this particular kaupapa centred around the health of the Noises, Katina has been working with the project partners, the Neureuter family, Tamaki Pairanga Hira, the Auckland Museum, and the University of Auckland. We will leave time at the end for them to answer any of your questions. So please, while Kim, Rosie, Sue and Katina are talking, please write any questions or comments into the chat on Zoom or on Facebook, and Grace and I will put them to them at the end. So let's kick off. Kim and Rosie, I see that you are not on mute, which is awesome. You can bring up your slides when you like. So a warm welcome to our Foundation North partners, and kia ora, korua.
Tēnā koe Caitlin mō te whakatūwhera I tō mātou wā. Nō reira tēnā koutou katoa. Ko toka te maunga, ko wairo te awa, ko ngā tuki mātou whauro te waka, ko Abrahama taunui te tangata, ko te popoto ki kaipara te hapu, ko Oturai te marae, ko Rosie te tuhi Nathan tōku ingo. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa.
Morena tātou, ko Taurau Rangers, te maunga, ko Moana-nui-ā-Toi no te papai oi a hau, ki te motu o wahiki tōku kāinga nainei, ko Calcott, tōku whānau, ko Kim Collins, tōku mua.
We're getting there.
We're getting there. I can't see the bit at the top. Okay, is that good?
Awesome, perfect.
Okay, we're just going to start with a little promo video, which goes through the essence of GIFT. And Caitlin, you'll let me know if we can't hear the sound. So Gulf Innovation Fund Together, or GIFT, is nearing our fourth year of operation, end of our fourth year of operation. And when Foundation North initiated this kaupapa, we knew little about the human system surrounding the Hauraki Gulf, the root causes behind its environmental degradation, or what it would take to reverse the declining ecosystem health. Through our journey through GIFT, we've learned quite a lot about the system change blocks, both through the work that we've been doing and, more importantly, through the work of the GIFT grantees. So the system blocks we've had highlighted for us have been the separation between humans and nature, its needs and its rhythms, siloed thinking and siloed policies and practices, a sense of entitlement when it comes to our environment, a lack of connection, lack of trust, and a lack of authentic relationships. So earlier this year, it became really clear to us that it's the human systems that need to change to support Māori to flourish. Oh, yeah, I can stop sharing.
We'll show the first.
Okay.
We're just going to, I think this is probably better. I feel like I'm talking to a aroha mai koutou. I prefer to talk like this. Sorry.
Okay.
So my role really is to talk about our journey in terms of acknowledging Mauri. So to be quite frank, Foundation North were in a place when I came on board, which was, a lifetime ago now, 18 months ago, of really getting to understand the implications of using a word like Mauri. What did it mean? What did it mean not only for ourselves, but in particular for ourselves as Foundation North? There's been a growing appetite, as we all know, for our country to acknowledge the value of a bicultural nation and the value that each one bring to our country and to us as a human system. So during this period of time and my period of time, and Foundation North have actually really activated what that might look like and how we might support our community to actually grow in knowledge, understanding and tolerance actually around the restoration of Mauri in the Hauraki Gulf. So some of the things that Foundation North have done is to have they appointed a Māori advisor who is rich in knowledge around science to do with the environment, ngā tauranga Māori, and we've also made some significant effort to change our application forms so that it's much more engaging and it's simple to understand, it's less complex. And the other is that we've introduced some practices which we've provided to the whole world really to acknowledge ways and to support ways which people may engage with mana whenua. But in doing that, what we're really acknowledging is the place that mana whenua hold in this whole kaupapa. So those are some of the simple things that we've done. G.I.F.T has been a catalyst to help activate those principles and those behaviours. So that's about it really for this little part. Kilda?
So just a beautiful definition of Mauri from Māori Marsden. Mauri is the force that interpenetrates all things to bind and knit them together. And as the various elements diversity, Mauri acts as the bonding element, creating unity in diversity. So that's just a lovely quote if you're not familiar with Mauri. And just to talk Rosie's comments, through our learning journey around Te Ao Māori and Mauri, we really realised that we're one of the systems that need to change. So that was really the prompt for us to realise that we need to look at our practices and to see where we were creating blocks for mana whenua to prevent them from fulfilling their aspirations. And that's led to all of the changes that we've been trying to make to really change our system.
We've also, Foundation North as an organisation has made a commitment to increase the cultural understanding and learning for all staff. So it's not just a program of work, but it's actually a commitment for the whole organisation to reflect our learning and our behaviours when we do engage with Māori mana whenua. The other is that we've had the expertise of some significant people in terms of the expertise around mātauranga Māori, the environment from a Māori perspective, and so we've engaged many people like that who've actually created this space to have a conversation with grantees, to engage grantees in that conversation and all other to extend that to their communities as well. So that's been a very helpful way to, I guess, to initiate change, to mobilise people's thinking and understanding.
So having mauri at the centre of the gift kaupapa has been increasing unity and bringing a diversity of thought and approach to regenerating and upholding the wellness of Tīkapa Moana, te Moana-nui-ā-Toi, the surrounding whenua and its people. So through GIFT, we've learnt that placing Māori values and concepts at the centre, holding a space for knowledge systems to coexist and complement each other, and trying to work with all knowledge authentically helps to shift mental models and allows for different things to happen. To support the wider system of this journey, we have been running Mauri Wānanga sessions in conjunction with Te Kā, who aim to have 10,000 people embracing Te Ao Māori concepts. We've held system change conversations. We've been prototyping some connectivity mapping. We've provided platforms for mana whenua to speak, lead and exercise kaitiakitanga and to have equal status with science and other knowledge systems. As Rosie mentioned, we've shared resources around guidelines for ethical engagement with Māori, and we've been sharing our learnings with stakeholders to influence policies and practices.
Yeah, what it takes to for I guess an organisation like Foundation North to open itself up to mātauranga and to manifest bicultural ways of learning, working. From my perspective, it's a conversation. It's creating a space of respect, of safety for that conversation. It's actually flying under the radar, using Kim's words, flying under the radar until things feel comfortable and people have a level of understanding where they can contribute and participate with some confidence. I did say before, there's a greater appetite for people to actually understand and learn this. There is a different listening that's required from my perspective. I'm not speaking on behalf of Māoridom, but there is a different type of listening that's required when you're working with mātauranga Māori. And it's not only for myself, but it's for those who I am supporting. So my role as an advisor with Kim is to make sure that whatever we do, we are creating a space of learning. We're creating that space which is safe, a level of tolerance and respect. And it's reciprocal. It's really important that we have brought people in who have helped us to actually strengthen this platform, who have helped others who we've connected with to strengthen their own delivery and their own kōrero around what their intent is in terms of restoration of Tīkapa Moana.
And I think the only things to add to that really is the willingness to have really brave conversations. When there's been times when personally I haven't even understood the worldview that I'm coming from, and to have someone kindly but gently but staunchly challenge that has been amazing, and a privilege to learn from that. And I think the other thing that we need to consider is letting go of our agendas and timeframes, especially when they don't work for Māori. So we might think we want to do something by this stage, but if that doesn't work for Māori, then we need to completely let that go. So we'll just finish. And did you have anything else?
We talked more about ourselves and the type of systems we've tried to create and tried to influence. There's a whole system outside of us which is actually working. What we've tried to influence and, as I say, create as a space where that conversation can happen very fluidly and very confidently amongst grantees. And so as a catalyst, G.I.F.T has been really significant in that, enabling that to happen. Yeah, I think that's probably how I'd like to end.
And it's lovely to have Sue and Katina, one of the G.I.F.T projects following on, because there's a huge range of really fantastic mahi happening out trying to restore Tīkapa Moana. And we'll just finish with a short promo clip from our recent Learning and Insights report narrated by Matua Kevin. I just had to click through this. Good.
Mauri refers to life force or essence. It binds the physical and the non-physical together. Collectively, we are causing great harm to our ecosystems, but we have the power to change this. Our values and models are blocking change. Too often we place our own needs above doing what is right for the environment. Old legislation, our colonial past, bureaucracy, and uneven leadership create systems which don't work for nature or people. Te Ao Māori thinks long-term, is holistic, and places people in a guardianship and kinship role in relation to nature. Māori values and concepts, often insights and paths to doing things differently. Opening people up to this journey has become an important role for G.I.F.T, and we are also on the journey. Foundation North, along with others in philanthropy, can begin by recognizing the specific customary roles of mana whenua. We need to let go of any needs and agendas we have to listen, participate, and seek to understand, especially where our own systems are blocking change and where we can assist the movement. Through G.I.F.T, we are exploring and walking bicultural ways of working. In holding a place for something different, G.I.F.T has been bold, challenging, and disruptive, breaking our own rules. It has also convened and created safe places for others to enter and traverse this space, neutral zones for parts of the system to come together. A key role for philanthropy is to hold a mirror to human systems and how they enable or block the outcomes everyone typically wants. Foundation North is its own system. How do we enable new things to happen, and how are our policies and processes stifling them? For system-level impact to happen, we need to recognize it's a long game. But philanthropy can start by building capacity for that change, identifying and connecting change makers, building skills and understanding of tikanga and knowledge, taking on advocacy roles, engaging with Maori and all communities, and incentivizing change.
We've finished, Caitlin. We'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
Hi. Kia ora, Kim and Rosie, thank you for your kōrero, and to hear how G.I.F.T has been a catalyst for change, really, and starting with yourselves, isn't it? Yeah, and your own organisation, your own practices, and really nice to hear your personal journey as well, but also how mauri is at the centre of this work, and I love what you said, Rosie, about it starting with conversations and creating that space, that safe space that is with respect, and where you can have those conversations as well. So thank you. Kia ora. Next we have Sue and Katina. Kia ora. With some, it's going to be a beautiful follow-on with some further shared learnings and showing G.I.F.T in action. So kia ora korua.
Kia ora koutou. I'll share my screen so that we can just confirming, Caitlin, is that working all right, everyone? You can see the screen? Excellent.
Perfect.
Morena koutou, ko Katina Conomos toku ingoa.
Morenas, ko Neureuter toku ingoa.
So thank you very much for the invitation to present to the seminar today, and also just to Kim and to Rosie for your presentation. Thank you. It's always great to hear the G.I.F.T perspective, because it has been so central to the journey of the noises, and really want to acknowledge G.I.F.T support for the Neureuter whānau and for our current mahi over many years. I just would like to acknowledge at the outset that in terms of our work at the Noises, which we'll talk about today, we are quite early on in our systems change understanding and thinking. So very happy to share that with you today. We understand that these seminars have been focused on systems change, and so we see our work as a case study for you within another sector and context. So the structure of our presentation today, I'll give you a bit of context about the Hauraki Gulf Marine Park. Sue will then talk about the noises, and then I'll speak again about our project path and our path to systems change. So to touch on the Hauraki Gulf Marine Park, I am going to assume that most people attending today will have some experience working with legislation. So if any of the language I use though is confusing, just please pop a note in the comments so that we can pick that up. The Hauraki Gulf Marine Park was established in the year 2000. It was established by legislation through the Hauraki Gulf Marine Park Act. And the lines here that you can see on your screen indicate the boundary of the park. And I put this up because it's not commonly known how big the park is. It's north, you can see it goes quite far north, well east of the Coromandel down to Waihi. It's large, so 20 times the size of Lake Taupo is the size of the marine park. And the purpose of the Hauraki Gulf Marine Park Act, when it was set up in 2000, was to support integrated management of this special area and to establish objectives for the management of this area. Also to recognise the cultural and spiritual relationship of tangata whenua with this space. And that Act also created what's called the Hauraki Gulf Forum, which is a governance group comprising ministerial representatives, council representatives, and representatives of tangata whenua. But the park was created because it's an incredibly special place. It's not only a place of business, such as aquaculture, fishing, tourism, shipping, transport, but less visibly, the marine park is home to many marine mammals. It includes common dolphins, bottlenose dolphins, killer whales. There's also a very special whale called the Bruder's whale, which is listed as nationally critical and threatened. It's estimated that there's about 50 of the Brooder's whale residing in the marine park. The marine park is home to one of the most diverse and abundant seabird populations in the world, internationally recognised as a seabird hotspot. It's got gulls, terns, gannets, penguins, shags, and the less familiar shearwaters and petrels. So about 24 species of seabirds breed in the Hauraki Gulf, and the entire population of black petrels breed exclusively on Aotea and Hauturu, so Great and Little Barrier Islands. The park contains nature sanctuaries and more than 40 predator-free islands, some of which are in the care of Sue's family, which you'll hear about today. Every 3 years, the Hauraki Gulf Forum is required to produce a report on the health of the Gulf, and these reports speak to continual decline and degradation of the marine environment. The water quality is degrading, which is a consequence of increased development and population pressure. Fish stocks are declining. We've lost subtidal mussel beds, and species like crayfish are now functionally extinct. So it's an alarming picture. There are just 6 marine reserves in the Hauraki Gulf Marine Park, and I've put this up here so to reinforce the point that 0.3% of the total area of the marine park is currently in a form of marine protection. So that's less than 1%. And science says that having significantly more marine protection is essential in order to avoid a collapse of our marine ecosystems. The Hauraki Gulf Forum have recently set a goal of having 30% of the park in some form of protection. That's amongst other goals they've set, but that's the one we'll focus on as part of our presentation. But you can see that it being currently at less than 1% and needing to get to 30% is a big shift that needs to occur. So I'm now going to hand over to Sue, who will tell you a bit about the noises. Kia ora, Sue.
Thanks, Katina. And thanks so much to you, Rosie and Kim, for the amazing support and guidance that we've had from you over the last years. So our family have a multi-generational association with the islands called the Noises, and they're made up of 3 main islands, being Otata, Motuhorupapa and Ruapuki Island. And there's a number of smaller islets and rock stacks, and they're all interconnected by reefs. So they're an incredibly special place to us, but because of their location in the Hauraki Gulf, they enjoy this extraordinary biodiversity because of what's under the water there. They've been predator-free since 2002, all of them. And in fact, Ruapuki Island was the first island in New Zealand to have predators removed from it back in 1960. That was in response to the rats eating the huge white-faced storm petrel colony, which now nests successfully there again in burrows. So the islands themselves have flourished, being pest-free, and it's wonderful to see the changes which have occurred. Some of them we had no idea we'd see some of those things happen when you took predators away. So many people don't know what predator-free looks like. Now we just have a willingly accepted job of trying to maintain an almost weed-free status and ensure that the predators don't get back on there. But when we turn our eyes outward into the marine environment, that is just a sad contrast to what's happening on the islands. There's so much loss, and in my brother and sister in my lifetime, got 50 years of memories of only decline. And I think that brings us to really realize, or brought us to realize some years ago now, that we couldn't make those changes on our own, and we needed help from others, and nor did we want to stand or snorkel around those islands for the rest of our life and tell people about the declines. It's not good for the environment, and it's not good for us to be constantly in this place of degradation and decline. Anyway, I'll let Katina continue now.
We could, I think we'll both continue for the next few slides. I appreciate you probably can see the screen, but not necessarily us. What we'll pull up now, just to sort of really emphasize some of those contrasts that Sue's been talking about. We've got a couple of audio clips here from the noises, and this is the sound of the noises in the daytime, just to give you a sense of what predator-free sounds like.
It's interesting because that's a very seasonal sound on the island. Because they're very small, the tui and the bellbird populations often are quite transient, which is something that we've really learned since the island ecosystems have recovered. It won't support a massive year-round population of birds, but because of their extremely healthy botanical, the growth and so on the islands, we know that this is normal.
And then this is the sound of at nighttime with the seabirds. The noises are home to nesting seabirds, and this is in particular the sound you'll hear is the grey-faced petrel, known by Maori as oi. Mm-hmm.
That's so special to be able to hear that at night. And normally you'd hear korora or little blue penguins as well. And there's a lot of work going on these birds. But of course, some of, especially species like the korora, they're also in decline because it's not enough to make islands predator free now. We have to ensure that they have a food supply, especially those near shore feeding seabirds, to enable them to breed on these predator-free islands.
And just a quick couple of photos here to give you a sense of sort of a marine environment. Not everyone has the privilege of being able to go under the water, but you can see here some photographs that show biodiversity within our marine system. These are taken around the Noisies. I've got a couple here, and then by contrast, this is kelp forest. Do you want to just quickly talk about the Kinnabarrons, Sue?
So what we remember when we were very young were huge kelp forests, which has supported this huge biodiversity and abundance of life. And when an area has been too thrashed and overfished, what we call keystone species like snapper and crayfish have been removed from the ecosystem. They're the things that keep the kinna under control. So if the kinna population explodes, then they eat all the seaweeds, the algae and everything, which of course then denudes the area. And it means that all those species that relied on the kelp forest and those algae and associated growths for life can no longer exist there. So you end up with this, a huge Kinnabarron.
And so it's that, those contrasts, if you like, that the family have been sharing. They've been sharing their story with the support of G.I.F.T over the last few years, being enabled to share this story. And in terms of this mahi being established, if you like, as a formal project, the family had been advocating for a number of years about their observations and sharing that and gathering support around them. Working with a number of researchers. But last year, in October last year, with the support of the family, a few of us got together to kind of wrap around the family and discuss what we could do. How do we formally support the family to advance their aspirations to have that holistic protection of the land and the sea? So the support, we gathered supporters, including research partners, long-standing research partners like the Auckland War Memorial Museum, the University of Auckland, other advisors, the Department of Conservation, and we captured the family's aspirations. I'll just put them up here, just to quickly step through them. It was to stop degradation, achieve protection of the ecosystems ASAP, to have an ecosystem-based approach, so linking the land and the sea entirely and having that as a connected space. As Sue touched on, that connectivity of seabirds in particular is important. The family have, the islands have long been a place of research and education, so maintaining that was important to the whānau, as well as being able to share this knowledge more widely to help shape appropriate legislation in the future. So I'm just going to whiz through now what's happened over the last year. It's impossible to condense it all into a few minutes, but just to sort of give you the highlights from a lens of our journey in terms of systems change and our awareness around that. So after we'd gathered and discussed the aspirations with the family, we formed a partnership between the family, Tamaki Paihanga Hira, the Auckland Museum and the University of Auckland. We started with what we thought was a reasonably clear path, which was pursuing marine protection for the noises via the Marine Reserves Act. The Auckland Museum were willing to lead that application. That's a legislative matter in terms of who can actually submit or lead an application for marine reserves. And that was all subject to mana whenua support, of course. What have we learned though? It's been an incredible year of learnings on top of many years of learnings that the family have already had. We have learned, and Matua Kevin in the video that Kim and Rosie showed, talked about systems that don't work for nature and people, and a lot of that, our current systems, and a lot of that challenges around legislative tools being inadequate. And that's the situation we are facing in the marine space. So the current legislative tools are inadequate. The Marine Reserves Act is 50 years old next year. That's the single piece of legislation that we have for protection of the marine environment. When you think about how much the Crown's relationship has changed with iwi with its treaty partners in the last 50 years, it's no surprise that a piece of legislation then written 50 years ago isn't suitable today. In practice, as I mentioned at the start of the presentation, the Hauraki Gulf Marine Park has 6 small marine reserves. Only one of those has been created this century, and since the passage of the Hauraki Gulf Marine Park Act. So in the last 20 years, only one successful marine reserve has been enabled in the Hauraki Gulf Marine Park. So it's pretty telling that there's a problem there in terms of the legislation. And what we've seen around New Zealand is that the inadequacy of the Act has meant that all significant marine protection efforts in New Zealand over recent years, such as the Kermadec Marine Reserves and Sanctuaries, the Subantarctic Marine Reserves and Kaipura, have all been established under special legislation. So that's one of our learnings, was the legislation issue. The other learning for us has been in terms of iwi and the barriers for iwi to engage equitably in this discussion. And this has been one of, I guess, the most fascinating areas, and continues to be, and fascinating areas of this. It's a struggle to call it work, because it feels like an absolute privilege to be working in this space. But there are 26 iwi who identify with the Gulf, Tīkapa Moana, Moana-nui-ā-Toi and its catchments. And it's not an equitable arrangement at this point in time amongst iwi, because there are incomplete treaty settlement processes over Tīkapa Moana. Those processes, as you would know, take time, and we are now in a situation, unfortunately, where the pace of degradation in the Gulf is not, at the settlement process, the timing of settlement processes and the degradation of the Gulf are creating a pressure point. Sue and her family have certainly realised that unless we also created opportunities for reconnection to the noises, that for some iwi they would otherwise remain inaccessible and unknown. They're not easily accessible to people. They're not set up for people to go and visit necessarily. So the need to re-establish connection for mana whenua was also a learning, and the really recognising the importance of that. And strengthening through that too, strengthening connections and sense of identity. And that hopefully through that, that may then increase the opportunities for iwi to prioritise this mahi, particularly around the restoration of mauri. So we've also learned language is incredibly important. The terms marine reserve and marine protection are real barriers to engagement as well. Because of I guess it not being fit for purpose, there are some barriers. The Marine Reserves Act in itself is quite a substantial reputation issue for us to overcome. Yeah. Yeah. Go for it. Yeah.
And there's a lot more that we've learned as a family, and now we're being able to share more widely with everyone, is that trust is actually a two-way thing, and it's quite difficult to open up and allow for that trust to be able to happen. And when it does, the understanding or our ongoing understanding of what matauranga may mean is very closely aligned with our family's own knowledge of connection. So when Foundation North presented opportunities to be able to understand that concept of mauri and matauranga more deeply, I recall my brother and I sitting in the wānanga looking at each other and going, wow, you know, that's what we think. And so that's been hugely rewarding, and it continues to be a privilege to be able to be working with individuals and mana whenua and foster that understanding and develop it further with our project partners. And the other cool thing about it is that I think we're all on the same page with really understanding the need to acknowledge one another's knowledge set and how we're going to use those two, the matauranga and the science, to forge a new way forward for Tīkapa Moana, respectfully, and in a way that we all learn and we all gain.
So as you can, I guess, realise that those challenges or recognition of the system was starting to become apparent in our project, and quite timely, G.I.F.T invited us along to a workshop on systems change. So we were beginning to recognise and have clarity around the issues that we had, and we needed to do a project reset. We used the 6 conditions lens, which I appreciate has been probably put up in your some of your previous webinars when I had a look through those. So I won't go into the detail about this framework, but I will just acknowledge that this framework has helped us in our work. We, of course, when we were starting to gain an awareness of the challenges that we were facing, we wanted to ensure that, as part of our project reset, we would have clarity on our vision and purpose and ensure that that enabled the best use of our time and resources, so that our work would be meaningful and contribute to changes in the current conditions that make marine protection and restoration of mauri in the Hauraki Gulf quite complex, as Kim and Rosie have outlined. So practically what we did, we assessed our work against each of the 6 conditions. We defined, and this was with support of G.I.F.T, I might add, they've been a real partner in our work the whole way through. So we assessed our work against each of the 6 conditions. We defined the issues, our points of influence, and how we would achieve our points of influence. Now, we don't have time to go through that today, but I just thought I'd share very quickly through one practical example so you can see ours in practice, our systems change framework in practice. So under the box of policies, just as we've been speaking about, we identified that we have a legislative issue, that the tools for marine protection are not fit for purpose. We also recognised in that assessment that there's a disconnect between policymakers and place. So for those of you that work around policy, you might know that the large amount of policy is written, or the pens are held in Wellington, and that those staff who are working in that space don't necessarily have the deep familiarity with Tīkapa Moana, Te Moana-nui-ā-Toi that Sue and her family and our partners have. So that was the issue. We identified our points of influence. I won't go over these in detail here, and that we'd achieve our influence by developing a new model, an ecosystem management model that takes into account matauranga and science, using the knowledge of our project team. We will develop it in a format that can be shared, undertake our own policy analysis, and share this with government, and develop and maintain relationships with government policymakers so that our credibility is maintained and we can support that impact. So the benefits, if you like, of the systems change framework for us has that it's given us the ability to assess and define our project better, and provides focus to ensure that we're channeling our resources and efforts in the right direction. As a project manager, it's been challenging for me not to work on a linear project, but the systems change framework has certainly helped provide that focus, and so that we can ensure that our efforts are put in the right place. So we now recognise, in terms of our mahi, that a new path for marine protection, and I say that in sort of parentheses, must be formed, and that path, if you like, must provide for appropriate cultural recognition and co-governance for marine protection and management. We certainly welcome the commitments that the Labor and Green parties have made to review the Marine Reserves Act, but we do note, and we're not unaware, that successive governments have not delivered on this promise for nearly 3 decades. So there needs to be strong community support for this to be successful. We're also focused on establishing meaningful relationships with mana whenua. And as many of you would well know, this requires commitment, time, and is about developing trusting relationships. And this aspect of our work is ongoing, and it's one of the most satisfying areas and privileges of our work. Alongside mana whenua, we want to identify new tools for enabling marine protection restoration and the revitalisation of mauri, using the noises as an example, but also to be an exemplar. So if we've got time, Caitlin, we have about a 3.5-minute video, which I was going to show just to finish off. And this video was actually prepared for G.I.F.T for presentation to their trustees. And it's narrated by Tom Trinsky, who's Head of Natural Sciences at Tamaki Paenga Hira, the Auckland Museum, who's a big part of our project team. So I'll play this video now for you.
The Noises Islands are located in the Hauraki Gulf Marine Park, Tīkapa Moana, te Moana-nui-ā-Toi. They're a group of small islands, rock stacks and reefs that support a really diverse range of marine habitats. Kia ora koutou. I'm Tom Trinsky, Head of Natural Sciences at Tamaki Paenga Hira, Auckland Museum. On land, these predator-free islands have outstanding conservation values. These motu contain some of the finest indigenous vegetation to be found in the inner Gulf and are home to a range of native invertebrates and reptiles and seabirds, among the highest diversity in the inner Gulf. But as with other parts of the Hauraki Gulf Marine Park, the marine environment is under extreme pressure and has experienced extensive coastal and marine degradation over the last century. In Aotearoa, New Zealand, there is the Marine Reserves Act, which is now 50 years old. This single piece of legislation is the only tool available to enable full marine ecosystem protection. Even though marine protected areas are one of the best tools to facilitate marine recovery and building resilience in marine ecosystems, this legislation is no longer fit for purpose, and consequently establishing marine protected areas in New Zealand is now fraught with many challenges. What's more, there are substantial complexities and barriers to iwi engagement when it comes to Tīkapa Moana te Moana-nui-ā-Toi. These arise in part from the incomplete Te Riti settlement processes over this precious moana. I personally am really excited by the opportunity to use the noises as an exemplar of a way forward for better management and better recovery opportunities for our marine environment. Tamaki Paenga Hira is here for the long haul. We've had an involvement in the Hauraki Gulf for over a century. We're really pleased to have partnered with the Neureuter family, who have a vision for the full ecosystem protection of the land and the sea of their islands. We've strung our waka together with the family, and bringing our science expertise and our community relationships, we can help support the family achieve their vision. Working with iwi has been one of the highlights of my career, where their connected approach to people, environment and spirituality is truly aligned with an ecosystem approach. With the whānau, we're working with mana whenua and mana moana, the University of Auckland, and communities and stakeholders that have an incredible opportunity to use the noises as an exemplar to overcome current barriers for marine protection. We'll share our knowledge, help build and strengthen connections, and create a new model of marine conservation with mauri, kaitiaki and ecosystem recovery at its heart. Our model will incorporate both mātauranga Māori and science. Ultimately, we aim to restore and revitalise the mauri of the marine environment surrounding the Noises Islands. This will be holistic ecosystem protection of both the land and the sea. Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou.
Kia ora Sue and Katina, thank you. So nice to hear the beautiful bird noises. What a precious, you know, that's such a taonga for Aotearoa. And I love that you said you can't make change on your own, and you talked about all your different partnerships. So big mahi to all the partners who are involved in this kaupapa, including Foundation North. Love that you use the 6 conditions. I mean, our Healthy Families locations across the Motu use that, so it's really cool to see it used in your setting as well. I would like to open up the floor for anyone to ask any questions now. We've got a small group, so please unmute yourselves and ask a question. If not, I have a question, but I'll open up the floor first. Kia ora. Oh, Jade, do you actually want to just ask your question? I saw you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jade.
Bye, Rosie, Kim, Katina, and Sue for sharing your wonderful and beautiful mātauranga with us today. So it's so many different connections, and I see Claire, Louise, and obviously Caitlin and Grace as well. My question was very much, I've only had the wonderful opportunity to chime into a couple of these system change hui's, and I know that we had to pivot because of COVID initially. I think it was for March 17th that you were going to have a face-to-face kind of hui.
Yes.
And obviously that's had to shift. Just wondering, yeah, what is, with the pivot and with everything else and the wonderful wisdom that's been shared across the past few months, what's been the biggest learnings and the highlights for you, Caitlin, and you, Grace, having heard?
Oh, thank you, Jade. I think we were a bit scared of the technology side of things, and it's, I tautoko you, Rosie, because it is hard to present almost looking at no one, isn't it? You're looking at your screen, and it is so much better kanohi kiti kanohi face to face. But we wouldn't have got the numbers in the room at our venue in Green Lane and Tamaki Makaurau that we would have got online, and the people who have watched the recordings afterwards. So our reach has been much bigger, which is, that's a huge success, really, that people, we were always going to record and have them there for everyone to access, but yeah, Grace, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, to tackle your points, Caitlin, and it's also been nice to live stream on social. I think that's added like another layer of people accessing information that might not have originally intended on coming to the symposium. So that's been a nice little extension as well.
Yeah, I think the other last thing I'd like to say is that we are all, and I'm sure you might all agree, we're so busy doing our mahi that we forget to sometimes tell our stories and showcase what we're doing. It is so important to share learnings, especially in the space of innovation and reflecting and sharing learnings with everyone, so that everyone can start learning and movements can start happening in other areas as well. So this has been a really good opportunity for all of the, especially the Healthy Family sites across the Motu, but also partners, to showcase what they're doing, and for new people who come into this space to always see that those case studies and examples and tools and learnings are there. Yeah, thank you, Jade, for your question, and to you especially for supporting us to get this going in the first place. Yeah, kia ora. Does anyone have any questions for our speakers? Oh, kia ora, Claire.
Kia ora koutou, and thank you so much. That was fascinating. Ko Claire tōku ingoa kio te kauni hera o Tamaki Makaurau ahau. So I work for the council in the Waitakere Rangers area. So all the things that you talked about I found fascinating, because working with communities and iwi out here, we face some similar challenges, not the same, but similar. And I had a question for Rosie and Kim, particularly around, what Katina and Sue identified as being an important thing is the co-governance aspect of managing the marine area. And I was curious to, there's lots of things I would like to know more about, but this one in particular, with the G.I.F.T process of, did you have scope to look at how decisions are made with regards to grants and incorporating a co-governance approach to that. Who decides on what grants are able to be supported? Is it the normal Foundation North sort of decision-making process, or is there an iwi at the table as well, mana whenua at the table as well?
Yes. Kia ora, Claire, thanks for your question. Through G.I.F.T, we have been able to step outside of a lot of the Foundation North usual criterions and systems. Up until recently, we've been operating through a G.I.F.T committee as opposed to other structures. And on the G.I.F.T committee, we've had a Mātauranga Māori advisor as well as a general science advisor. And we've been able to utilise external advisors to support the trustees in their decision-making processes. So we haven't managed to achieve a co-governance decision-making body. It's something that we've aspired to, but we've been able to utilise advisory services to support good grant-making practices.
Oh. Kia ora, Kim, and Claire, thank you for your question. We have reached our time, so we will close, but I mean, anyone can, I'm sure you will all be happy for any questions to be fired through to you if need be. I have a whakatauki to wrap up this particular webinar in the kōrero that has been spoken about today. And it's toitu te marae a tāne, toitu te marae a Tangaroa, toitu te iwi. If the land is well, if the sea is well, the people will thrive. So I just thought that was a nice, beautiful way to finish and close your kōrero. Thank you. This is the last Systems Change in Action webinar series that we're doing for this year. We will be holding some in 2021, but we really want your input on how that will happen. So we will be sending out a survey to all speakers, so that's you guys and listeners, to help give us some input. So please take the time to fill that survey out for us. I would like to acknowledge our speakers for today. Kia ora, thank you, big mihi to you all and your hard work to restore the mauri of the Hauraki Gulf region. Kia ora. Thank you to everyone who has participated. I'll just close us with a karakia. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa, te atawhai o toi tātou ariki, a iukaraiti me te aroha te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairua tapu, ake, āmene. Kia ora everyone, ngā manaakitanga, take care, thank you for listening.
Ka kite, thank you.